morning. So last Saturday we just finished a 1 month practice period, and it's called Ongo, and it's a 30-day practice period in which we sit every day. There's 6 periods of sitting every day, and we sit in the morning, and then we do work practice, and then we eat lunch. We sit in the afternoon. We do some more work practice, and then we end our day at 9 o'clock. We end the day by actually reciting something that a fascicle, that instructions that actually our founder of our Soto School wrote, and it's called Fukanza Zengi. And the Fukanza Zengi was written when Eiheiji Dogen. So Dogen is the founder of our Soto School, and he founded Eiheiji, which is kind of the head monastery of Soto Zen. And he then went to China in 1224, and then returned in 1227, and then wrote the Fukanza Zengi, and that's what we recite at the end of the day. And actually thousands of other temples recite this actual instruction. And while I was reciting it this month, then I was kind of reflecting on actually a right entrance, I guess. Right entrance. Dogen, when he Zen was actually brought back from China by S.I. Zenji, and S.I. Zenji founded the Rinzai school, and he also founded Kaninji in Kyoto, and so that's where Dogen then actually returned to Kaninji in Kyoto in 1227, and then wrote the Fukanza Zengi. The Fukanza Zengi its instructions. It's the instructions how to sit zazen, but just to only sit zazen. So it's actually it's the zazen of the Buddha, or you would say it's actually the supreme way is actually the sitting posture itself. And there's a term, or actually maybe I'll go into read just a little bit of the Fukanza Zengi. I'm just going to read the first part of it. The way is originally perfect and all-pervading. How could it be contingent upon practice and realization? The Dharma vehicle is utterly free and untrammeled. What need is there for concentrated effort? Indeed, the whole body is far beyond the world's dust. Who could believe in a means to brush it clean? It is never apart from you right where you are. What use is there going off here and there to practice? And yet, if the slightest discrepancy, the way, and yet if there is the slightest discrepancy, the way is as distant as heaven from earth. If the least like or dislike arises, the mind is lost in confusion. Suppose you gain pride of understanding, inflate your own achievement, glimpse the wisdom that runs through all things. Attain the way and clarify your mind, raising an aspiration to escalate the very sky. You are making an initial partial excursion through the frontiers of the Dharma, but you are still deficient in the vital way of total emancipation. So this paragraph, looking into this paragraph, and yet if there is the slightest discrepancy, the way is as distant as heaven from earth. If the least like or dislike arises, the mind is lost in confusion. And this comes from Kanchi So-san's the Shinjin Ming. And then I started to read into it, but it started to get, with the storm and all that last night, it started to get really, really big. And of course, the storm was very interesting because the storm, storms are interesting because it was nighttime, and when I was studying, just the wind, it just started to, like, was it hailing? I think it was hailing last night too. Hailing last night, and then the wind, where we're located, on the road, it was really like it was coming through the door, the air, the wind, and the sleet. And my son kind of ran into the living room and said, like, what's going on? So the storm was kind of interesting last night, but if there's the slightest discrepancy, the way is distant as heaven from earth. To realize its manifestations be neither for nor against. The conflict of likes and dislikes is in itself the disease of the mind. Do not dwell in dualities and scrupulously avoid pursuing the way. If there is the least like or dislike, the mind is lost in confusion. So the I guess kind of going off on that storm was quite interesting. A while ago, when I was living at UPI or studying with Joan Halifax, this was more than 20 years ago. We did like a long time fast up near the Chama River in New Mexico, and it was 4 days that we would take people into the wilderness, and then we would prepare people, like what will happen mentally, and then what will also happen physically. We would take them out into the wilderness, and then you have a jug of water, and then you actually have a tarp and a jug of water, and then you stay in this circle. So you make this circle, and it's off of kind of the vision quest, but it's not quite as extreme as a vision quest. So when I did it, went up on this peak and hiked up on this peak, and then I remember storms would come from a distance, and then it would start to really storm and rain in the Southwest, kind of like monsoon season. And I remember the feeling of my body, and remember my heart would beat, and then the energy of my body would actually go up from the belly up to the chest and then up to the head. And this is actually much like what we do in Zazen. Is actually we touch the ground. So that's what we did when we're on this alone time fast. Is actually I sat Zazen for the whole time. And after a while, then the storm will stop. It's kind of like what it did this morning when we were sitting here in the Zendo. It's dark, and the storm is blowing, and you can't see what's going on. And when you leave the Zendo, or when the sun came up and we left the Zendo, and you look outside, there's really like nothing that went on. You think that everything's gonna be, but it's a lot like, actually, it's a lot like our Zazen when we sit Zazen. And coming back to the Fukaza Zengi, this line, I tried to, last night I was trying to look into like faith, what faith is. And so this is kind of what came up, but the storm was kind of part of this I guess the talk. So there's a line in Dogen's Shobogenzo, the 37 elements of Bodhi, and this one line, it says faith allows us to enter into the ocean of the Buddha Dharma, but it is wisdom that delivers. So this confidence, or this trust we have when we sit Zazen is really important. I think maybe even if we don't understand a Zazen, actually maybe if we don't understand Zazen, we should sit. If we understand Zazen, also we should sit. But the more that you don't get caught by the storm, but then you actually, the Buddhas. Oh, we received a bunch of Buddhas yesterday, and they're touching the ground, which is an interesting thing. There's a lot of times we're up in planes, on the internet. Everything is off the ground, but when we touch the ground, this is returning to actually our posture of Zazen, and that is the true entrance to actually, you would say, the true entrance to being natural, as experiencing the natural of the universe, the naturalness of the universe. So it is the storm, and that at the same time it is not the storm. So this this faith is not it's not somebody telling you something, or it's not instructions, not somebody telling you or a belief, but it's actually a real experience that that you will find true the more and the more that you return actually to this life, to the very life that you have. So it's not a confidence in um, the self of the I, but it's the confidence in actually returning to actually all things as they are, which is your life, right where you sit. So it's a cultivating um, a trust of actually the trust of actually the gravity of your body where you sit. And this is something that's very, very simple, but we tend to look very far away from what the truth or what our life is, or what actually um, the seeing the nature of the universe exists right where we are. Um, so to trust your life is to trust actually the posture. This posture of zazen is extremely important, and it's not to gain, we're not sitting to gain anything, because we already have it. But then also, why are we doing why are we doing it? But the more you do it, the more this um, it's a confidence. So it's a confidence in a self, but your conviction uh, will get stronger, and the self confidence is not the self that we think, but it's the self of the universe that is actually um, starts to come up, or starts to help you in this way of actually being in the middle, in the midst of the ocean with this deep faith. Yesterday, when I was driving my son to school, Ajo, he's he made a resume to apply for some jobs, and that's in his English class. And uh, there's some teachers, and I think there's some teachers that go into the classrooms, or maybe they're in a classroom, and then they Hojo-san will always scold them, and like really scold him. If he did a good thing, he would scold him. If he did a bad thing, he would scold him. So Kishizawa Roshi, every day, this is like our practice. Every day he wanted to quit. He wanted to quit because it was just, it made no sense for him to do this. Because why do you want to be in a cold temple that's like storming, and my teacher, tells you to do this, to do that. So Kishizawa Roshi always was also couldn't keep up with Nishiari Bokusan, and was very slow. So one day, Kishizawa's teacher Nishiari Bokusan gave a lecture about Dharma transmission, and explained the Dharma transmission diagrams to Kishizawa. One of the diagrams was called the Daiji, or the Great Matter, and it diagrammed the philosophical background of Zen Buddhism. The complete diagram was beautiful, going all the way back to the Buddha, to Dogen Zenji, to us. And also there's another diagram called the Shisho, and the Shisho has in the phrase, here the Iron Man is the Iron Man, means a person who has perfect faith, a non-regressing spirit. An Iron Man is just like a huge mountain. This first phrase also means there's no second phrase. This first phrase is complete purity, just one step off the cliff. When we cannot expect the second step off the cliff, all we have to do is to just take one step. There is no second step or previous step. So if we become an Iron Man, then we say, I am here. This is a great man who has never moved. This is exactly no second person. When Kishizawa-roshi heard this, tears streamed down his face incessantly, and he cried for days. He wanted to ask Nishiyari Bokusan if he could have the calligraphy, but Kishizawa was so scared of Nishiyari Bokusan, he thought he would get beaten by him if he asked for calligraphy. So he asked a student of Nishiyari Bokusan's, and the student would visit Nishiyari Bokusan and bring him bottles of sake every week. And Nishiyari Bokusan liked sake and wheat noodles, so the old man went to see him and said, here I am, so let's have some noodles and sake. So Nishiyari Bokusan was very pleased and said, come in, come in. So they started to drink and eat noodles. And then he said, Roshi, I would like you to write a calligraphy for me. And then Nishiyari said, so what's the calligraphy? And then he said the Iron Man. And then immediately the teacher's face changed to a scolding look, and he said, it is not for you. Someone asked you for it, didn't he? And then the member said yes, and the teacher said it was my student Ian Kishizawa, wasn't it? And the old gentleman admitted that it was. After mentioning the name of his student, the teacher paused a little, then his voice became a little lower, and tears streamed down his face and cheeks. And he said, my disciple Ian was right. He wanted me to write Iron Man. That's wonderful. And the teacher had talked about the Iron Man. It had pierced Kishizawa's heart, and tears had streamed down his face. The teacher knew about this and had waited for him to come and express his understanding. The calligraphy that he sent the old man for was really a great seal of enlightenment. And finally, Kishizawa received Dharma transmission from his teacher. Do you have the time?
It's 11:30 now.
Okay. So this maybe something about bowing. After our services in the morning, we bow 9 times, and actually bowing, and again the same as the sitting zazen is giving up, of giving up this self, and lifting, you would say touching your head at the floor, and then lifting up, you would say your awakened mind over your conditioned self. And when it's just the bowing, then actually there's no subject and object, and actually the way, or you're not bowing to the Buddha. You're surrendering to something that's very deep inside of yourself, and actually you're holding yourself up with this respect and also this deep trust. Um, there's a term that is called whole faith-like body. So this coming back to your to the sitting, when the zazen, so we're not doing meditation, but we are actually just aiming at this posture in which we hold upright. And many times maybe we come to zazen and then sit down, and all these thoughts, likes of, oh, this is someone should turn on the heater, or I have a bad zafu, or I have pain in my legs. We return to actually the method of the sitting, of just actually sitting, and you actually we shouldn't move from it. Also, we come, maybe a lot of times we come, then we sit zazen. If something happens, so we want to come to sit zazen, but if something happens, like we're gonna, the self maybe is vanishing, then we don't want it to happen. This is what happens inside of zazen is very interesting, but to actually to understand, or actually to trust this posture, is to actually completely stay still no matter what happens. You have a thought of becoming enlightened, or you're waiting to become enlightened, you return actually to the posture or your method. Maybe if you're sleepy, if you're sleepy, then you put intensity into your zazen. If a lot of times, if the mind is thinking, or maybe the body is crooked, then we need to relax into the posture of zazen. So this is the whole thing about the Buddha's mind is or the mind of the Buddha is free, or it's free and untrammeled. And the ordinary mind is actually it's plagued or diseased with the greed, anger, and ignorance, in which we bring to the cushion. But as we sit, so it's not necessarily like getting rid of the greed, anger, and ignorance, but it's actually digesting it in a way in which we embrace all of it, and we're not dragged around by it, but we embrace it and we embody it, and then something happens within that. So it's this it's the turning of the greed, anger, and ignorance, or it's actually the letting go of greed, anger, and ignorance. It's the experiencing of this greed, anger, and ignorance in which we then we have this whole faith-like body. Whole faith-like body then becomes actually the faith of experience. And this posture itself is the faith that we're experiencing, and then in all things in the universe. So and then during Anga, we're talking about the Kanzan light. So it's the seal, the seal, the ocean seal. Yes. I have uh, one last story I read in Patrol Rinpoche's book. But it's about a story that there was a woman who lived with her son in the mountains in Tibet, and the son was he was a trader, and he got a lot of things, and would sell things. So she said, you must go to Bodh Gaya and get a relic of the Buddha, so and so she could put it on her altar. So he came back, and then she asked him again, and he would always come back, and he would forget to bring a relic back of the Buddha to give to the mother. So one day when he was walking up the road to their house, of course, he came back and he forgot. So he forgot, and then he looked around, and he saw a dog skull, a skull of a dog in the bushes. So he got the skull, and then ripped the tooth out of the skull, and then wrapped the tooth with some silk, and then put it in a little box. And so he just went right up to the house. This was just right down the road. He went right up to the house, and the mother said, did you get it?" And he said, "Here, Mom, this is the canine tooth of the Shakyamuni Buddha." And so she took the tooth and then put it on her altar. And every day she offered, and she did chanting, she did bowing practice and everything. Every day she did that for like 30 years. And throughout both of their lives, there were many miraculous things that actually happened to both of them. And when she passed away, then there was these you would say rainbows of the Buddha when she passed away. And when the son cremated the body, there was proof, there was many of these little beads then that the son put on his altar. So anything that you put yourself into can resemble actually the same thing as all things. Thank you.